Well, John, to start off, let's look at the CIA under the Reagan administration. What are some of the most significant occurrences vis-a-vis the CIA under Reagan? What has he done in terms of his policies that have affected the CIA?
Well, the Reagan election, when he came into office, there was great joy and dancing in the halls of the CIA. They recognized that they would be set back into full-fledged activities, much like they were at the height of their powers in the 50s and 60s. And that euphoria has pretty much continued. I have not been inside the building, obviously, but I have had a couple of conversations with people who were, and without telling me anything of any substance, they did. Their voices were crowing and gloating about how the world was being righted in their mind, and they were out there defending national security and freedom in all kinds of places, as the CIA has done in Chile and Angola and Nicaragua and elsewhere for so many years.
They announced on October the 1st that they're going to literally double the size of their new headquarters, the CIA, which would indicate that they're obviously planning many more activities and an expansion of their entire operations. What is some of the evidence of an expanded CIA under Reagan?
Well, of course, you know, I was kidding. I was up in Washington recently, and I was getting so many invitations to go and lecture that I was kidding and saying that I had something that would go on forever because I'm the last whistleblower, because they've got the court orders and injunctions and the Supreme Court rulings, and now the names of agents bill going through, and there won't be, all of which is to say that we probably will never know for sure what they're doing now under Reagan, because they are succeeding in getting in de facto official secrets acts. So the American public and the victims will never know the true stories of the current activities, like the war in Angola, the pre-Vietnam CIA covert action, the Chile coup, the assassinations. They will be muzzled probably forever, so we won't know for sure. What you hear about are the occasional, you know, it's an organization that will always go around shooting itself in the foot, because it deals with activists who are trained to break the law, who have activist instincts, and they will always be getting themselves in trouble. And what we're really seeing now are gross blunders and gross missteps, and in one case where two agents went so far afoul of propriety in the law that it did erupt into the public view.
That's Turple and Wilson, who were covered on 60 Minutes and a PBS documentary. What is
Those are the ones who were helping Libya, right?
Incredible, if you can believe it. Look at the way our president is dealing with the Libyan problem and Gaddafi. Our country's so concerned with the terrorism. The hitman team that was supposed to be tracking our president down to kill him, and now we find that two fairly senior CIA officers were out actually training. They had resigned from the CIA, but they were being supported by people who were at the very top of the CIA, who it's not clear, and of course it may never come clear exactly to what degree they were being supported, but they were being met, debriefed, and assisted in some ways by people like Ted Shackley, who was a top CIA. He was chief of the Latin America Division, chief of the Far East Division, and then assistant deputy director of operations. Now, what were these men doing? They were making millions of dollars selling CIA terrorist equipment, expertise, and actually training Libyans, selling this equipment to Libya, and actually training terrorists in the Libyan China Lake terrorist training camp. Now, as the story is being squeezed out in bits and pieces, it's coming out. It's now been documented that there were active duty special forces officers helping them to train terrorists inside Libya. Now, we're talking about up until 78, 79. And there were also CIA active duty personnel at China Lake training terrorists. And this even boggles my mind, having been inside and from what I've seen. But all of the to-do we're making about terrorism, and here we are here our CIA is delivering technology and actually training Libyan terrorists.
This sort of illustrates your thesis of search for enemies, that the function of the CIA is to cause problems, that makes it possible for military intervention. So that would fit into this sort of scenario that you've drawn.
Indeed, and there's no other real explanation for it. Now, one of the CIA officers who was still in the CIA, he denied at first association with them. They were claiming that he had supported them. He denied it. And then when he had to admit or perjure himself, he had to admit that there was association. He claimed that it was only to keep contact so they could tell him who the terrorists were and what they were doing. Therefore, it was a legitimate CIA enterprise. But then when the Senate tried to squeeze out, and the Justice Department, documentation from the CIA, there was none. And he said that was because it was something that he was keeping in his vest pocket. So either we have a full-fledged CIA operation, or we have an illegal, venal, corrupt operation. But either way, there was complicity with these people who were training and making the Libyan terrorists a great deal more effective. Now, mind you, we're talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about the latest in terrorist, explosive devices, and the way you can make an ashtray into an explosive device, so when a bad guy puts out his, or a good guy for that matter, puts out his cigar, it blows up and kills everyone in the room, this sort of thing.